So if you haven't seen the other videos, my name's Luke Sheldrick. I own and operate a profitable, small-scale, organic vegetable and cut flower farm outside of Ottawa, 45 minutes west of Ottawa, Canada. The purpose of these videos is to share a look at running an organic farm and trying to make a living, two livings, because Dana and I both make our living off of the farm, and have a nice small family and have a sustainable lifestyle while doing so, and make sure that we are treating the land and the people that work for us with respect and not exploiting either. And that can be difficult because the entire agricultural industry is typically reliant on exploitation of either one of those things, or typically actually both of those things. So I want to, at the same time as giving a look at what we're doing here, also provide sort of anecdotal information along the way about sort of what it feels like to be in my position, what it is like to be working here on the farm. Yeah, so the update right now, it's spring. It's a little bit earlier than typical. So what that has created is a feeling of needing to rush to get everything done. And I was laughing to myself yesterday because last year, spring was late and I still felt that feeling. So it's in a unique instance where you can kind of reflect and see that weather is constant in the fact that it's inconsistent. So the only thing you can change is your mindset. So I have to remind myself to breathe, go with the flow, because every season's different. And if I'm always going to stress about whether the season's early or whether the season's late, then I'm just always going to be stressing because weather is consistently inconsistent. So it's a great lesson to learn, and I'm having that reminder again right now. We couldn't ask for a better start to the season, so I'm way ahead. So feeling like I'm behind because I'm ahead is ridiculous. So I hope that you can apply that to something in your day-to-day life. I just finished recording and editing last week's video, and it's Monday, so we're already on to this week's video. It's really windy here, so I'm just running out to fix the cat tunnels. I'm going to brace them down more. Some of the ropes just have to be tightened because of the initial, well, the heating. The plastic warms up, so that stretches it out, and then also they always stretch out. You always have to tighten the strings, so you just run down and quickly tighten them up. So I'm gonna do that right now. This week is looking like planting for sure. We're gonna drop that plastic wall and extend it again already inside the nursery. And as you can see here, we'll be fixing some tarps. These are super crucial to warming the soil and also preventing weeds from growing in the spring. So twofold, really good for killing and preventing weeds, and yeah, warming the soil, so then we'll move them off and plant right into it for spring. So a lot of work ahead with fixing those. We'll definitely also do our first harvest of spinach this week and bring it to a retail location. Not a ton, but they'll be happy to have it. And a little other few maintenance things, and hopefully nothing else comes up. If nothing else comes up, that'll be good news. All right, so we've already taken the wall down and we're extending the greenhouse again. So we actually had crops here. These are beds that we have planted in and we will plant in again. But we pulled out the spinach and the lettuce that were here. We actually transplanted some of the lettuce to fill up spots in the other beds that needed it. So then we will put the wall up again here, and then we'll extend it at least one more time. So we're just currently making benches. We just use cinder blocks and 2x6s. It works really well because they're temporary, and because we do so much moving them around, we love this system. It's really helpful to just make it versatile. On the topic of never enough storage space, this is where we keep all of our random wood. As you can see, extremely orderly. Behind me here is a space where we planted our tulips in the fall last year, and we've placed this mini tunnel over top to ensure that we would be able to have them ready for Mother's Day. So in the event that it was a late spring, we would put the plastic on to speed up their growth. But because it's an early spring, I can see them up already. So I doubt we'll be putting the plastic on here. Here you go. So we have these nesting boxes all around the farm. I think we're up to over 10 anyways. I don't even remember off the top of my head. But they're amazing for tree swallows and the eastern bluebird. Both are phenomenal species to have around. As far as I understand, the eastern bluebird eats grubs and things that are in the garden. And then the tree swallows eat a lot of bugs that fly around. So that's your black flies and things like that that you don't really want. Plus, they are amazing to see around the farm. Like, I absolutely love seeing them in the spring. Swooping around, hanging out on this telephone line that goes across our property. They're just something that is a part of our farm environment that I absolutely love to see and home. And cleaning these boxes is part of the spring chores. It's actually a little late. I think you're supposed to do it when it's still cold, and the purpose is to sort of take out last year's stuff to prevent any sort of disease or issue like that spreading to their new little babies. So working on that today, just going around and clearing them all out. It's because they're going to be back soon. So if you're interested in this sort of thing, please give this channel a like and a share, or comment things that you'd like to learn about or hear about. I'm gonna be just weekly updating everybody about what we're up to around here. And yeah, every week, show you what's going on. These gardens are gonna be full at the end of April. We're filling the nursery right now, so every week this landscape is gonna change a lot, and I'll be updating everybody about what's happening here on our farm. So we're not a no-till farm, but we follow the tenets of no-till as much as possible to influence our decision making. So we call ourselves minimal till because we use tillage when necessary, but as I say, do my best to follow the principles of no-till to inform all the decisions we make on our farm. One of the important things of no-till is making sure that there's no soil that's bare, and a good strategy is using tarps, or I have all of them in the same spot, so that's why I'm making this video right now. Behind me here, you could use tarps. You can use winter rye, which was planted a little late, but you can see it coming up here, and that's gonna be really nice green manure to give fertility back to this soil. Or sometimes what we do is just leave the crop in and the landscape fabric, and that is a way of keeping roots in the ground and keeping the soil covered. And then also a lazy approach to packing up in the fall. So it's kind of a win-win-win. So then in the spring, everything's died back. It's easier to pull that landscape fabric off and easier to flip the bed because everything's dead. And it's, yeah, like I say, good win. So we're using the principles of no-till to make these decisions, and hopefully they're good decisions and efficient as much as possible. In every setup, we want to try to have it as ergonomic as possible. So here you can see like a bit of a workflow in this corner where we have our seating station. We've got our soil here, a workbench for filling trays with edges so we're not losing our soil, so we just brush it all back in, it catches it all. And then we have a space to leave the trays for another person to plant. And then we also have a table here for seeded planting when it's something that takes longer, like snapdragons or larkspur, or things like flowers with small seeds, or when we just have another person that we need to work in the space. So it's as ergonomic as possible on a limited space, and we like the layout. So if you checked out last week's video, you know that we were grafting our tomatoes and that they're in this healing chamber. And you know also that I said we needed really high success rate, and we're used to having that. Now, it looks like they're coming back, but I had my heart drop yesterday because through the night before, when we need the humidity around 90%, one of my humidifiers had cut out, and the humidity went down to like 50%. And to compound the issues there, for some reason the heat was a little high as well that night. So right now we're still not hitting the humidity we want. I don't know what's going on. I think one of the humidifiers isn't working, but they are standing back up. Everything's a little bit delayed. I'm guessing we're gonna hit more like 50-60% success. But even then we'll be able to fill the greenhouse we need. And then as a backup today, I'm gonna plant a little bit of extra seedlings, some cherry tomatoes and some heirlooms for the second greenhouse that we intended to fill with grafted as well. But it hasn't had tomatoes for year after year after year, so the graft isn't as important there, but it would have been ideal. So contingency plan, and I'm not super bummed, but here, I'll show you what we got here. You can just see they're a little droopy. Some are better than others, like these marigolds all look great. This is more what you want them to look like. I'll just take this lid off so you can see here. That's looking more good. That's a bit of a mixed bag. You can see some in the back are just toppled right over and not gonna make it. But yeah, this is it. You just kind of roll with the punches. I'll have to make sure this is sealed better in the years to come. But and I'm gonna do a little patch job even now with some tape on some of the spots that look like they're not. I just spotted this spot right here, so a little extra tape there. A big scare there yesterday, but it looks like things are moving ahead in a positive direction. But like I say, we're making a contingency plan, and that is a lot of what farming is about, is sort of rolling with the punches, making quick decisions. So now I know, even if we lose a lot of these, we have a plan in place. We'll still be able to fill the greenhouses with tomatoes. Maybe not the ideal circumstances, but we're also still gonna wait and see how these work out too. But keep that contingency plan in place. So this is the overwintered spinach here. We got a pick out of it yesterday, about 15 pounds, which is not bad. And then we're gonna just pull this out and get some direct seeded crops in here. And then we could have done both, but I don't really have a market for this bed, and I anticipated it would be the same. So what we're gonna do with this one is just wait till next week so that we have one more week of that, so we can sustain some of our retail spots around, and with just some small orders. And then the following week, we're approaching April, and greenhouse 2 will be fully ready to go. So we'll have our April market and also have retail there. So flip this one, get some direct seeded crops in. Next week, flip this one, get some direct seeded crops in. That'll also stagger our direct seeded greens by a week, so that's nice too. So then we're gonna have, hopefully starting next week, consistent product for our retail locations moving forward, basically. So Cal's just removed this bed of spinach, and with tasks like this, sometimes you think using a tool will speed it up, but what we've found, for example, using like a wheel hoe and then a rake, it actually makes the job harder, because rather than just pulling up the roots and then gathering the piles, you end up getting this big mess of roots and dirt, and it ends up actually taking longer and not as nice of a finished product. So sometimes just doing it by hand is best. In last week's video, I said that the crew had come back, but I can't believe I didn't introduce them. So here we go. This is Caitlin and Louise and Cal, and they're just planting in the nursery today. They were the ones who crushed it last week, putting the cat tunnels up. And yeah, we're all just crushing it this week, week 5. And we'll be having more people back as the weeks go on. We'll be all the way up to 8 full-time in the summer. So I'm just training Cal here on the direct seeder. She's our field lead. We had someone else doing the direct seeding last year, but a really important thing about teaching a team and creating a team is that the right players know how to do the different things. So Cal is gonna learn from me how to direct seed, and then it's likely that she will also then teach someone else, so that within the team we have 3 to 4 people who can do it, so that then we're not at any point waiting on someone to do the task, because Cal is often, as the team lead in the field harvest, busy doing other things. So she'll need someone else as well, just like I need someone else. I'm there to jump in if she's doing something, she's there to jump in if I'm doing something, and lastly we'll have 1 or 2 more people that can do the same if we're both busy. So this, like the turnips and radish, arugula and kale, is a crop where you want it to be covered for its entire life because it's susceptible to something called the flea beetle that loves brassicas of all kinds. So we're covering this right away with row cover, and we will then irrigate. This also helps with the germination because it will hold the moisture in and also kind of keep it a little bit warmer at night. One of the benefits and negatives of row cover is that it has thermal capacity. So like I mentioned, it keeps the soil warm at night. But the issue with that is in the summer when it's really hot, it can transfer that heat to the leaves and you can end up damaging leaves like arugula or baby kale. So we have another product that's an incredible alternative for just protecting the plants from the bugs like the flea beetle, and that's called insect netting. And it's a plastic material that has no thermal capacity, so it can lay right on the plants without damaging them at all. So that's what we tend to use in the main season, and once these germinate, it's likely that I will bring it in here and replace these row covers with it. But right now the row covers will be fine. Additionally, there's nothing wrong with row cover if you have hoops and sandbags in place. So like you can see here, these hoops are in place and they're all the way down this bed. So if there's a cold night coming our way, we can easily grab this row cover and throw it over the hoops and pin it down with our sandbags, and then it won't be contacting the leaves of the salad. So that's an alternative to the insect netting as well, is just properly doing it with hoops so that the row cover is not contacting any of the leaf material, so that if it heats up, it's not transferring that and burning those leaves. So now we've got those direct seeded and covered, and I'm gonna flick on the irrigation to get it watered in, because immediately after planting anything, you have to water it in. This is a good opportunity for me to share a mindset key that we learned the hard way, and that is that nothing is done until it's completely done. So in our early years when we were farming and growing, we would say I would direct seed that and then I would need to run away and do something else, and then I wouldn't come back to it. I would forget. But that is the rule. Nothing is done until it's done in entirety. So that means that any direct seeded crop has to be covered and irrigated before it is checked off the list. So you are not, like, it's a mindset thing. You have to say, this task is not complete. You did not do the direct seeding if you didn't do the rest. It used to be, oh yeah, we got that seeded in, we'll come back later. And then all of a sudden, if you're doing that, the wheels are slowly falling off your operation because you're doing all these half tasks all over the place, and it very quickly catches up to you. So be sure to do all tasks in their entirety before you check them off as complete. So here we go. Pumps on. If you're wondering what's going on here, check out my other video where I go over this irrigation system and how we're using it to irrigate our tunnels in the shoulder season and without having to dig into our frozen pond. The last task of the day and the last task with the crew here this week is to fix all the tarps that have been wind blown everywhere. And I think we can all agree that moving tarps is probably our least favorite thing because they often stink, especially after the winter. They're all slimy and gross. But we also love the tarps because they do a lot for our soil prep and they save us a lot of time and effort. So it's a love-hate, and here we go. Are we stoked?
Yeah, we are.
Woo!